was a blessed reporter. I was introduced to one of the foremost global tourism, late Ignatius Amaduwa RTV, who took me in as one of his students. And I think I was about the second student after the well-known Matt Da Silva Babuje. I was the second student of late TB. And he encouraged me to stay on as a young tourism reporter and see him as a figure father to me and a mentor. He encouraged me so much, and he told me, look, I started as a journalist myself, and look at where I ended. So there is a path for you. So that was why I got into travel and tourism.
Hello and welcome to another compelling episode of Just Africa on SOUQ News Television, the program where we spotlight the people, policies and possibilities shaping Africa's future. Across the continent, travel and tourism remain one of Africa's most underutilized economic engines. From cultural heritage and, of course, eco-tourism to hospitality and creative travel experiences, Africa holds unmatched potential, yet struggles with visibility, infrastructure gaps, and fragmented policy frameworks. This episode of Just Africa focuses on how Africa can reposition itself through travel and tourism sectors, not just as a leisure industry, but as a strategic driver of jobs, investment, cultural diplomacy, and inclusive growth. I remain Emmanuel Amalo and welcome you to today's show with my co-host Omevi Idolo. Hello, Omevi.
Yeah, good afternoon, Emmanuel. Good afternoon to you, Lagos, Nigeria, and to you from wherever you're watching from across the globe. Welcome to Just Africa, This is the best time to be talking about this, before the festivity season starts coming in again and again and again. Now, you mentioned the gaps and some of the gaps when it comes to travel, tourism. Africa, destinations are really not our challenges.
Yeah.
When it comes to tourism, the challenges that we're facing is the fact that the places, the foundation that is supposed to make those destinations to become experiences, then experiences become income, are faulty. So most African leaders, most people still see tourism as leisure. They see tourism as entertainment. They see tourism as let's just do it for doing sake. People don't do it because it can generate income.
Yeah.
People don't do it because money.
It was just like yesterday.
You get it?
It was like yesterday when we were talking about creativity.
Yes.
People are
You
not seeing that.
People are not seeing the business opportunity, the business aspect of it. So some of you say, okay, I just want to relax.
Let me just travel to my village. And that's
you get it, and that's it.
Nobody's seeing the commerce in it, or the economic value in it.
And now, how do we fix these things? What are some of the challenges? Of course, there is no tourism without movement. So when the locations are bad, when the roads are bad, then you start thinking of flight tickets. And you will agree with me that most flights, internal flights, let's talk about Africa now. They are very expensive. For you to move from one African country to another is sometimes more expensive than leaving the African continent to another continent entirely.
And of course, Africa, as it were, we're not growing at the same, the countries in it are not growing at the same pace. So, for example, infrastructure development may not match. If I have, for example, a local flight, right, and then my airport to your airport, I'm going to have struggle. I'll take you to another one that suits it. Then you now have to do another travel from that place just to connect to your destination. You probably touch more than one place.
You understand? Then when we talk about tourism, it requires it provides money, it provides jobs. It boosts businesses because there is no house. People will come to a place and they will not want to eat. There is no how you know that people are coming for sightseeing, and you will not employ people. You buy souvenirs. You employ people that will ensure that the place is well taken care of. Everything is looking good, but we don't see it. Sometimes people just go to this waterfall in Ogun. Is it Ogun State or in Osun State?
You go see waterfalls. There are plenty of them. In Giti.
Are those places were taken care of? So we don't look at bringing people from the labor market and employing them in that field. We don't look at businesses excelling. We don't look at empowering women and youth in that field. So there is a whole lot to really talk about.
The potential is there. It's good that we already have this conversation. Perhaps more conversations like this happen. The changes that we hope to see will start to happen little by little. The aim of this episode is very, very simple, to inform and, of course, reimagine our view, reimagine how the continent should be, and, of course, help our viewers understand, have a clearer definition of how these issues are, and, of course, revive Africa's tourism sector and why strategic communication, coherence in our policies, and collaborations would matter more in this era. Our guest today is Dr. Lucky George. He's an award-winning journalist, tourism advocate, and the executive director of the African Travel Commission. He is also the publisher and editor-in-chief of African Travel Tourism, one of the continent's leading platforms dedicated to travel, leisure, and hospitality storytelling. For decades, Dr. George has worked at the intersection of media, policy advocacy, and tourism promotion, helping shape narratives that attract investment, influence policymakers, and elevate Africa's tourism profile globally. Welcome to Just Africa Today, Dr. George.
Good afternoon, and I'm glad to be here.
All right, Doctor, we're just going to dive straight in because if I stay on just your profile alone, we will probably reel out half of 30 minutes. You're been an expert in this field, and we want to touch on how this whole thing started for you. What inspired you to focus on African travel, tourism, and, of course, media advocacy?
Once again, good afternoon to your listeners and viewers around the world. I started my travel and tourism career as a reporter. That was way back in late 90s, I should put it that way. I was a reporter with the then Diet newspaper that eventually became a Daily Independent newspaper. So from there I grew through the ranks, and I was a blessed reporter. I was introduced to one of the foremost global tourism, late Ignatius Amaduwa Atibi, who took me in as one of his students. And I think I was about the second student after the well-known Matt Da Silva Baboje. I was the second student of late Atibi. And he encouraged me to stay on as a young tourism reporter, and see him as a figure father to me and a mentor. He encouraged me so much, and he told me, look, I started as a journalist myself, and look at where I ended. So there is a path for you. So that was why I got into travel and tourism. Over the years, I moved on to my final public newspaper job happened to be the Business Day newspaper, when I was the head of travel desk for a couple of years. And of course, I get into marketing as well, selling Business Day newspaper to hotels across the country, which was one of the most innovative that I brought into the business altogether. I started doing reporting for Business Day newspaper, and at that time I was also freelancing with a lot of international platforms. Okay. So from there, as a travel journalist, you have to travel across the country, you have to travel within West Africa, and so also you still have to travel within your zone. So that took me to a lot of European cities, to the United States, and all that. So basically, I was learning from a few of the travel journalists that I met on the beat. And at the end of the day, I decided to just look, this is the path I want to follow. Academic-wise, having a very good background in journalism, marketing, and public relations, so I decided to go for a PhD in tourism and public relations again. So that really grounded me in all I've been doing.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. George. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. So now, from this long period of time that you spent in traveling and tourism, can you tell us some of the things you have seen that African tourism are doing wrongly? Those in the tourism sector. What are some of those things we are doing wrongly?
This is the first thing I noticed, and it's basically within the Nigerian economic space. And one of the things I noticed was that the travel and tourism industry in Nigeria is not being taken seriously, especially with the way and manner the National Bureau of Statistics look at what the travel and tourism industry contributes to the GDP. So from that perspective alone, there is a problem and there is a gap. And when it comes to planning and budgeting, the travel and tourism industry suffers a lot. So that is the first gap that I notice here in Nigeria. And it's not like that in Ghana. It's not so in Kenya, in the east, north, and the southern part of the continent. They take tourism seriously. They accurately report what travel and tourism contributes to the GDP.
Wow. Okay. Another thing that we have seen is that most Africans, Nigerians too, I don't just want to say only Nigerians now, most Africans see tourism as leisure, entertainment, but they don't see the policy side of it. How do we change this mindset that tourism is contributing largely to a country's GDP and ensure that, yes, we make policies that generate funds to a country?
This is the point. If the National Bureau institution cannot really capture what the travel and tourism industry contributes to the GDP, it's always a problem. In Nigeria, for instance, I can tell you for free that after agriculture, the next highest number of employers of industry, of workers, is the travel and tourism industry. You can come from your locality, from your area where you live in Lagos. You can see there are more hotels, there are more restaurants, there are more leisure-related businesses around you, more than any other thing you can think of. On the island, again, I'm sure you have more travel and tourism institutions than the entire banking system put together across the country. If you look at the number of people that works in the hotels, the travel agents, the tour operators, the restaurants, the lounges, there are so many. And we create this number of jobs. And these jobs, some of them are skilled, some of them are not skilled, and some of them are of different levels. So to succinctly put it, the travel and tourism industry is the second largest employer of labor. And that's what is the same thing like we say globally, that every 10 workers you see everywhere in the world, one of them works in the travel and tourism industry.
I think the issue is maybe we limit ourselves when we talk about travel. We only think about the vehicles that move, either it's via air, land, or sea. That's all we always think about when we talk about travel. Anyway, but you're a publisher and you have a travel magazine or newspaper, but you're a publisher. How can we use your media and perhaps what we're doing here to change the narrative and, of course, correct the perception that's already been created, perhaps also open it up to investments or investors? Some
of the things that you are already doing are the things that I've been doing in the last 20, 25 years. Advocating, enlightening not just the public office holders, even the ordinary man, the investors out there. There are so many opportunities in the travel and tourism industry, which is far beyond what you can think of. But you need to, first of all, learn about it. A lot of us see the hotels as the mainstay of the travel and tourism. Yeah, it's also very true for the Nigeria environment. Apart from the airlines, the hotels, or the hospitality sector is the largest player in terms of the travel and tourism industry, and which is truly so. So we need to educate more people because they are already doing it, but how do we formalize it? How can the government institutions that are responsible for tracking and calculating our contribution to the GDP effectively use it? How can our legislations back up these claims? Because if you know the travel and tourism industry can generate about 5 to 6 trillion for our economy on an annual basis, definitely you have to project and, of course, see how you can better support the travel and tourism industry across the country. It's not just when it is December. Travel and tourism activities is now a year-round activities. We don't have to wait until when it's Christmas or when it's Easter or perhaps when it's a Valentine period. The travel and tourism activity is now all year round, and we need to plan for it, and we need to plug the gap. How do we invest in those areas to make travel and tourism related activities a year-round activity? And this is very important.
Okay.
You've been doing this, I mean, this advocacy for over 20 years, like you rightly said. Which strategy do you think works very, very well in reaching these targets? Because you mentioned people that needs to, be proactive. Which one do you feel hits the nail in the head directly when it comes to this advocacy?
Like we say in public relations, there is no one single means of reaching out to the public. All you need to do is to position yourself in every point of contact with the public. So therefore, we can use the television, we can use the radio, we can use, now we have the internet, which is social media. And of course, the one-on-one human contact is also very important, because going forward, we need to sit together in a single hall where we can discuss this physically, where we can look at the policies, then the advocacy aspect of it, and of course, the return on business, because you need to show people that those that are already in the business are actually doing well, they are paying their bills, and at the same time, those who have loans to pay, they are actually paying their loans. These are some of the issues that we have been saying over the years. Like I said, there's no one single formula. We use all marketing integrated communication means to reach out to the public, either to the consumer or to the potential investors. So that is what I think we are already doing. Now we're using television, and of course we have a lot of presence on social media. Same way that I publish my magazine on monthly basis, which is a hard copy, but we also have a very strong presence online, which is very important. So we can reach a wider audience with what we do, so that they can see the advocacy that we're
all right. Thank you very much, Dr. George. Now, I wanted to ask a question about partnership, but from what you said now, something came to mind. One of the gaps that is affecting tourism from research shows that the traveling, especially airline traveling, is very, very expensive within Africa. So people find it difficult to move. And when they try to move by road due to insecurities and border challenges, people have issues traveling. As someone with so much experience in this field, what do you think African leaders need to put in place to make movement much more easier for tourists?
Now, this is it. We are a country of over 200 million people, and we do not have a national carrier. And like I said last week on another platform, I said that we have barely 30 airworthy aircraft in the country today. 30. So therefore, we are lacking capacity. Not just lacking capacity, therefore the few ones that are available are being chased by a lot of demands. And that gave the operators the opportunity to extort and exploit Nigerian traveling public. Yes, they are so expensive traveling with any of the airlines. I'm not going to mention it, but traveling with any of the aircraft that are at the airports. Definitely, they're going to pay almost times 2 what we're supposed to pay, or the value of what we're supposed to pay for such a trip. Now, the roads are bad, like you rightly said. How can a Nigeria, a country of 200 million people, not have a national carrier? If we're going to Europe, if we're going to Asia, we're going to America, we rely on the Ethiopian airline, we rely on Kenya Airways, we rely on Egypt Air. Where is our national carrier? So these are some of the problems we have. So yes, travel and tourism became so expensive in the last 20 years because we do not have a national carrier. If we have a national carrier that can take us from point A to point B, that we can join another airline, our travel experience will be less stressful and be less expensive.
Yes.
This is a fact. So because we do not have this massive connectivity, if you're going to go to some African country, for instance, you're probably going to go to Paris, you're going to go to London, or even as far as Barcelona first, or Germany, before you can return to a part of Africa that is just 2 hours away from, because there are no connectivity. And Nigeria, that is supposed to be dominating this part of West Africa, we do not have the wherewithal. When I say the purpose, we've not been able to convince ourselves that we are capable of running a successful national carrier. Like the Ethiopian Airlines have proven to be that it can be run by a government and still be successful. Same goes for Egypt and same goes for Kenya Airways. If you take Kenya Airways from Kenyan tourism, that tourism industry is dead. The same thing for South Africa. We were looking at the figures. It's now that Ethiopia government is focusing on more on internal tourism and to attract that aspect of the market. If you take, for instance, Royal Air Maroc from the Moroccan tourism industry, these nations cup or AFCON that they are hosting will be more problematic and more difficult and more expensive. I can tell you the connectivity within Morocco is so simple because they have a national carrier that is strong, reliable. In Nigeria, we do not have one. If you buy a ticket going to Abuja, for instance, from morning flight, you are probably going to be kept at the airport for the next 6 to 8 hours because those same aircraft that are supposed to run the regular schedules, they are going on a charter operation. Until they are done with the charter operation before they will come back and begin to serve their traditional market. You and I that will be waiting at the airport. So this is the problem we're facing. And I'm an advocate of a national carrier. And we must, as a matter of urgency, for the convenience of Nigerians. I school in Nsukka, for instance, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and I can tell you, traveling from Lagos to Nsukka over the years, like I did for several years, is so expensive. So what about if you want to go by road? Do you want to risk being kidnapped on the way? The answer is no. So whether it is for leisure, whether it is for business, honestly speaking, we are not ready. And this is what we feel that the Minister of Aviation must have a look at. People have been convincing me that Nigerians are so corrupt, that we are corrupt as individuals and as collectively, that we cannot run a national carrier. To me, that argument is not tenable, and to me, it's an irresponsible argument.
Okay, Doctor, staying with this, your thought, yeah. I remember quite recently the chairman of one of the airlines, I don't want to mention his name, said that we actually pay the cheapest air flight compared to every African country. And now you're still saying it's expensive. And the man is saying we're not even paying enough. What is eating or making this travel, especially air travel, this expensive? Because if we are asking for more alternatives to transportation, we have not even found the one that is cheaper for the entirety of the masses.
Back to the gentleman you talked about who owns a popular airline that I don't want to mention. Yeah. He is misleading Nigerians. He's not being honest. Let me tell you, I was on a radio program on New Year Day with the president of the National Association of Nigerian Travel Agencies, where we printed out the cost of tickets. We printed one from Lagos to Uyo, we printed one from Lagos to Abuja, and we printed one from Lagos to Kano. When we compared these tickets, if, for instance, the one from Lagos to Uyo on a particular airline was 310,000 naira. And you know what? There's what the airline called YQ nonsense. And that YQ, they hide it under fuel surcharge. So if you buy a ticket for 320,000 naira, 210,000 naira of that money goes to the airline directly where they call fuel surcharge. Now, there are services that are rendered by various government or third-party organizations operating within the airport. I'm sure before you climb the airport, before you get to sit down in the aircraft, you use that step that you climbed in, and the same step that will bring you out of the aircraft. These are run by different business owners, which you must pay. So they put them together as charges. Then these are the money you pay through the government, and the government remit this money to those companies that are operating at the airport. And again, when you look at the ticket, out of the 320,000 naira, 210 has gone to the airline operator, the owner of the aircraft. Free. Government don't put taxes on it. There's no levy on it on that money. Now, about 40,000 naira of the 320 will go for what I would call the taxes and the levy. Then the remaining 70,000 naira or thereabouts will be the actual fare, which is called the base fare. It is out of this 70,000 naira that the Nigerian government will now charge 7.5% of VAT. And that same, the balance goes to the owner of the aircraft. So who are they deceiving? So that is how it was. That is the configuration. That is the reality. These guys are just liars. I have said it before them, and the people who should know, the National Association of Nigerian Travel Agencies, who broken down the cost, it's now left for the government institutions to come forward, which they have done repeatedly. That is not true, because the fuel surcharge take over the entire airfare, which is about 70% of the total fare. So it's not true. They are not running at a loss. It's not the cheapest in the world. I'm sure you travel around the world. I have traveled between London and Barcelona, between London and Madrid, between London and Berlin for less than £40. Even as we speak today, if you want to travel cheap in Europe, there are low-cost airlines that you can travel in. Because the argument he was trying to make, when Nigerians are traveling from Lagos to Abuja, they want to eat pounded yam on board, or they want to fill fish salad. That is not true. Because all the charges have been accommodated in what they charge each passenger. But they are too expensive. And that is why you see people go.
All right, doctor, thank you very much. So apart from the flight expenses, now let's talk about this visa regime. You know, sometimes the impact of visa for intra-African traveling is also very, very important. So what impact have restrictive visa, what impact has it made or has it had on intra-African tourism?
Oh, I'm so sad about that. It's so terrible. It affects travel. If we have free visa within Africa, I can tell you travel activity will peak by 500%. Because if, for instance, I can go to Kenya, I can go to Tanzania, for instance, that has a very strict visa regime for other Africans, I can tell you travel and tourism activity within Africa will hit over 500% growth on annual basis. It's a major stumbling block. And that is what we're trying to convince a lot of the African countries. We now know that a country like Rwanda, Kenya, and a few others are making it visa on arrival. It does not mean that when it's visa on arrival that the visa is free. No, you still have to pay some money on arrival at the border. So these are some of the issues. Yes, the issue of visa and the cost attached to it are so more expensive. I can tell you for free, going to some African countries, their visa fees are more expensive going to Europe or even the United States. Recently, I was a panelist in Mozambique at a tourism event, which our organization, the African Travel Commission, and others jointly organized with the local partners. When we arrived on the same flight with a lady who was holding an American passport. Our visa fee was $10. But I, as a Nigerian, as an African, my visa fee was $150.
Whoa.
So that is a tragedy that we in Africa were faced with. So these are some of the issues. If you are coming into West Africa, for instance, if you want to visit Ghana, Togo, and maybe Benin and Nigeria, you're probably going to have 4 different visas. So this is some of the issues we're campaigning against. We're trying to educate the country that yes, it's true, you make money from the visa fee and the rest of that. But I can tell you, you make more money if more people visit your country. They spend more money in the hotels, they spend money in the restaurants, and if they spend more money in buying souvenirs, you will make more money. And these are some of the arguments we've always had. And I hope they will listen. Good enough, we have a summit coming up in February at the Hotel, and we're doing it in partnership with the Economic Community of West African States. And some of the things we'll be discussing are the issue of visa fee. How do we reduce what we charge if we cannot scrap them entirely? And of course, how do we remove some of the taxes that people claim are the problem of cost of high air ticket? Like I said, the problem is not the taxes, neither the charges. It is the excessive YQ that the airlines themselves are charging, which takes over 70% of the entire airfare.
All right, Doctor, you just talked about the summit that's coming up in February. How is it opened? How can one attend? For instance, Just Africa team is supposed to be, we could be there really to cover the event as well. So is it opened or is just for some persons?
For my friends from the media, you are all welcome, and to your team, you will receive an invite letter from us in the coming days. However, for you to attend as a member of public, you must be a business owner within the travel and tourism industry, or you must be from the level of a director in government institutions, or you work for an international organization that has to do with travel and tourism. Now, this is the point. It is a policy and advocacy gathering. It's not just a get-together thing where we talk and it ends there. Yeah. And that's why we're limiting the quality of the invitees that we want to be at the event. So definitely it's not for everybody, but your team and your stations, you guys are invited, but definitely you have a letter of invite from me in the coming days. And of course, what we'll be discussing the policies. Okay. Why is it that we are the most backward of the entire African continent, West Africa? Why is it that we're backward? Is it that we've not been able to articulate our products, or we've not been able to effectively position ourselves where the sellers of these products can take into consideration what we have?
Okay, Doctor, I know that when we talk travel, we're not only restricting ourselves to air travel, right? We've got, at least where the continent is, we're bordering the Atlantic Ocean. But we don't also use our waters enough for travel. We also don't even use the rail as an option to connect African countries. Why is this so?
My brother, it's a lack of vision by some of our leaders. Like I said, Nigeria, the largest country in Africa, the most populated country in Africa, failed to see the benefit, the opportunity of linking the entire West African sea travel.
Yes.
It's a tragedy. If you are traveling from Lagos to Accra, for instance, you see more than 50 roadblocks as you travel along, and at each point, you are expected to pay money. This is just West Africa where we believe that it's supposed to be free movement.
Yes.
So these are some of the issues. So again, the problem, we've not been able to develop the travel and tourism industry, and to rightly put it so, we've not been able to even take advantage into about 20%. We still have about 80% left undone. By air, you cannot travel within West Africa and get to where you are. If you're going to the Gambia, for instance, which is just within our West African continent, West African sub-region, you have to go to Senegal. Sometimes you have to go to Togo first. Then from Togo, you cannot join ISCA. Sometimes you have to go to Accra first, or you go to Cote d'Ivoire from here. Okay, who does that? So that is a problem. We've not taken advantage. And of course, to say this, we're also bringing in the African Development Bank that have been funding agriculture, that have been funding manufacturing and energy across Africa.
Yes.
Why cannot you tell the West African countries that is far, far behind? Let's have a successful, a big, strong, reliable national carrier for West African states. Yeah. If Nigeria cannot hold one, if Ghana cannot afford to own one, so that we will liberalize, like Riley said, also invest in the sea travels. Yeah. We can connect eastern part of Nigeria to the entire Cameroon, Central Africa, and the rest of them.
Yeah.
So that is a problem. My brother, I invite you to come to the event so that you help us ask this question, because we're expecting business owners and government institutions to be at this event. So we'll ask this question and we must find an answer to it and a solution.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. I know that, time is fast spent, but if you want to envision Africa that has its tourism sector fixed and travel sector fixed, what would it look like?
Oh, my brother. I will see an African continent that will be develop a new generation of young men and women that will be happy, that will know their continent, that will love their continent, and also make a living from their continent. That is what I envision. Until we resolve this problem that we've highlighted in the last few minutes, honestly, we become strangers to one another. You will see a Ghanaian looking at a Nigerian person as a foreigner, or you see a Kenyan seeing a Tanzanian person as a foreigner in his own country. Whereas in Europe, it's not like that. I've been privileged to work with Zimbabwe government during the most difficult period of that country, and I can tell you how much more travel and tourism can do for people who are not from your part to fully understand your people, your culture, and what you do, and the opportunities there. So these are some of the things I have. A well-funded travel and tourism industry will be a kind of an opportunity for us to know one another and to develop our continent much better.
All right, that's the last question because we're wrapping up here. First of all, I love your t-shirt. I wish I could get it. But we cannot see it a few minutes ago. We are off. But then again, I know governments are the ones who drive policy a lot, and perhaps the investors and co. But what can we commoners do? When I say commoners, we the citizens in our small corners. What can we do to at least help to fix the problem?
This is it. In Africa, especially in West Africa and Nigeria, we have this wrong narrative to say government only is to provide the enabling environment. If you provide all the enabling environment, like the airlines are asking for, they don't want to pay tax. The government has been given a lot of subvention over the years, which I'm aware of. They supported, and so also that sector of the economy, the government have been doing it, but yet people don't see it as a sector they can put their big money in, like Dangote has done. He put in about 20 billion into building a refinery because he saw the opportunity. He knew the market is there, and his business would thrive. Do we have such investors who are thinking that way in the travel and tourism industry? The answer is no. So therefore, government must continue to take the initiative and continue to invest in the sector, and that is what I think. And as for us, the individuals,
yes,
we will take advantage when we see the opportunity that is there for us. And that is what is missing.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Time is not our friend, but we will definitely drag you again. I will definitely see at that summit in February. We will be there. We will be. Well, thank you so much for coming to today's episode of the show. Your insights have been very, very helpful and mind-opening.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.